calls us to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate our lives ever more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Friend, beloved God,
Friend, beloved God,
Great Masters,
Great Masters,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Mihiri Mahashaya,
Mihiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Saints of all religions,
Saints of all religions,
we humbly and lovingly invoke thy presence.
We humbly and lovingly invoke thy presence.
Help us
to
to deepen our attunement,
to deepen our attunement,
to deepen our perception,
to deepen our perception
of your presence within,
of your presence within,
and grant us your grace,
and grant us your
that we
grace,
may share your light,
that we may share your light,
your love and joy,
your love and joy
in our daily life.
in our daily life.
Om. Peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, friends. Have a seat. We're going to start with some music.
A poor little girl walking in the cold, her clothing all tattered and thin, spied a rich man standing outside a church, outside a church, outside a church, spied a rich man standing outside a church, the service about to begin. Please, sir, she said, hear an orphan child, the cold winds of winter have come. I've no place to live, not in all the world. Oh, help me find work in some home. The rich man frowned. Don't you hear that hymn? Good people have gathered in prayer. It's a day for worship, impious girl, impious girl, oh impious girl. It's a day for worship, impious girl. Don't speak here of earthly affairs. He turned then and entered the holy church. The girl wandered down the cold street, and there all at once she beheld a small boy, no jacket, no shoes for his feet. His clothing was shabby, as worn as her robe. He shivered against the closed door. Alas, he cried, none will take me in. Take me in, none will take me in. Alas, he cried, none will take me in. Though I'm starving and cold, for I'm poor. Seeing him, she cried, how I feel for you. It's bitter with no friends to live. Here, please take my shawl, it's all I can spare, though it's shameful so little to give. wrapped him all up in the flimsy cloth and kissed his cold forehead and smiled. Suddenly, a warmth like a summer breeze, like a summer breeze. Suddenly, a warmth like a summer breeze encircled that poor girl and child, and a tender voice said, "My daughter, I'm here. No more shall you weep without friends, for in yonder church there's no love like yours. Those with pure hearts their needs I attend. My child, all men's sorrows would turn to joy if they knew that to share is no loss, for its kindness broadens the human heart. Human heart, the human heart, for its kindness softens the human heart. I know I would die on the cross. Worship means our love, and my love you found by your gift to me here in the cold. And she found their clothes were now woolen and warm, and the shawl was now spun of fine gold.
Continuing to meditate, let's listen to these words from Affirmations for Self-Healing on our week's topic, power. Power is an aspect of God. Human beings often associate the word power with ruthless ambition and dominance over others. But it is a misdirection of power to exert itself over others for selfish ends, and a misuse of it to exert it without care for their well-being. Rightly understood, power is the ability to command our own energies, above all for our own transcendence, but also for the good of others. Such power is important for spiritual growth. Many people imagine that spiritual development is manifested as a sort of saccharine sweetness. The saints, however, are people of enormous inner power, before which others often tremble. Yet theirs is a power only for good. Its roots lie buried in the soil of pure love. Let's affirm together, first with an out loud and strong voice, grabbing the attention of the conscious mind. Mine is the power of the universe.
Mine is the power of the universe.
Channeled for my own awakening.
Channeled for my own awakening.
And the awakening of other sleeping souls.
And the awakening of other sleeping
Not with a
souls.
regular voice, but with great power. Mine is the power of the universe.
Mine is the power of the universe.
Channeled for my own awakening.
Channeled for my own awakening.
And the awakening of other sleeping souls.
And the awakening of other sleeping
Now in a
souls.
whisper, mine is the power of the universe.
Mine is the power of the universe.
Channeled channeled for my own awakening
channeled for my own awakening.
and the awakening of other sleeping souls. Now taking it mentally. Mine is the power of the universe, channeled for my own awakening and the awakening of other sleeping souls. And now with great concentration at the spiritual eye, broadcasting into the superconsciousness, mine is the power of the universe, channeled for my own awakening and for the awakening of other sleeping souls. Mine is the power of the universe, channeled for my own awakening and the awakening of other sleeping souls. Feel that wealth of power behind your consciousness flowing through you, and let's pray together silently. Help me to feel that thy power runs through my veins, courses through my thoughts, and sets my noble feelings afire with love for thee. Om.
Peace. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
That's one of my favorite affirmations. This week's topic is, this week's topic is ego, friend or foe. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Jesus Christ begins his Beatitudes with the words, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." To be poor in spirit in such a way as to merit the kingdom of heaven doesn't mean to be poor-spirited. Rather, it means to see oneself as owning nothing, since all belongs to God, for all is a manifestation of his consciousness. St. John of the Cross wrote, "If you would own everything, seek to own nothing." That which the ego relinquishes, offering it up to soul consciousness, is reclaimed forever in cosmic consciousness. Nothing is ever lost. Paramahansa Yogananda tells the story in Autobiography of a Yogi of the levitating saint Baduri Mahashaya. "Master," said a disciple of this saint once ardently, "you are wonderful. You have renounced riches and comforts to seek God and teach us wisdom." It was well known that Baduri Mahashaya had forsaken great family wealth in his early childhood when single-mindedly he entered the yogic path. "You are reversing the case." The saint's face held mild rebuke. "I have left a few paltry rubies, a few petty pleasures, for a cosmic empire of endless bliss. How then have I denied myself anything? I know the joy of sharing the treasure. Is that a sacrifice? The short-sighted worldly folk are verily the real renunciates. They relinquish an unparalleled divine possession for a poor handful of earthly toys." The Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter states, "All things are everywhere by nature wrought, an interaction of the qualities. The fool, cheated by self, thinks, 'This I did, and that I wrought.' But, ah, thou strong-armed prince, a better lessoned mind, knowing the play of visible things within the world of sense, and how the qualities must qualify, standeth aloof even from his acts." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning again, friends.
Good morning.
I think I know everyone, but I'm Narayan, in case you don't.
Keshava, Dharma Devi's not feeling well. She sends her love to everyone. Hi, Dharma Devi. And hello to everyone joining us online. This is from Yogananda's Whispers from Eternity. And this is for Frank. Heal my nerves and install me with new ones. Resonate with thy joy. Frank works with electricity. That's why I picked this one. You'll get it. When thou camest, I smiled in my soul cottage by the little brook of life. O mystic electrician, the many-tinted bulbs of unawakened happiness, long dependent on my nerve-clogged senses, refused to scintillate with light, for the nerve wires had been torn and shaken by high winds of outward involvement. O thou silent physician of illness, heal my tattered nerves. Restorer of shining currents in our lives, resurrect all the dead nerve wires, not only in me, but in people everywhere. Breathe into their bodies an unleashed flow of power, that all the unlit, bare-wired and dangling bulbs of their senses may suddenly shine again with thy blazing glory. I am but the bulb. Thou art the holy energy that can animate it. Thou art indeed both bulb and light. Help all men to realize this miracle. Heal our shattered nerves and flood all the disease-clogged wires leading to those bulbs with the effulgence of thy divine light. When Frank works on his next job, he thinks of that divine effulgence that shines through the lights. I saw a funny cartoon related to this topic, ego, friend or foe. Have you ever been to like a sporting event and they have those big hands, you know, with like the number one, people put it on their hands, like a big hand like that. And so there's a psychiatrist and he's with his patient, and the patient is there with his hand up with one of those big things, and the psychiatrist says, "Your primary problem seems to be your ego." and the hand says, "I'm number one." Yeah, this is the whole problem, right, and crux that we have on the spiritual path. The great stumbling block is the ego. And yet at the same time, we need a healthy sense of ego even to have the awareness that we want to transcend the ego. That's why in India they say human life is a great blessing, and that we don't realize all we have traversed, the many lives, the many evolutions and incarnations we've had to get to this level. And then we think, now here I am, we're plodding along, we're dragging this bag of bones, and we're trying to get ourselves out of bed. But because we've cut ourselves off now from that divine power. Remember, as Master said, the energy, that divine effulgence that we were talking about in the whisper there, it flows through the medulla, which is the seat of ego in the body. And if there's an obstruction there, the mystic electrician that light can't flow through. Mm-hmm. And that's why the universal sign of humility is the bowing of the head, which actually releases the medulla and allows that energy then to flow through to the Christ center. I wanted to pick this up by perhaps a slightly different thread here this morning of using our ego in the right way and getting to the core of our identity. I was looking at Autobiography of a Yogi the other day, and I realized the significance of the title. Yogananda doesn't say he's Autobiography of a sadhu or autobiography of a Swami, he calls it autobiography of a yogi. You know, a yogi is a lover of God. So that's what I wanted to talk about this morning, is the importance of loving God and identifying ourselves as lovers of God. Because naught else matters, right? When we're at the deathbed, when the mystical electrician is coming and he's going to hit the off switch, what are we going to be calling ourselves? Are we going to cry out towards that bulb and cling to it, or are we going to merge into that divine effulgence? So why do we want to love God? There's a number of actually really good reasons. You know, one is that in India they say sukha dukkha dham. It's a Sanskrit word for that the cycles between pleasure and pain, and then in between you have boredom, right? A desire is fulfilled, you get happy. Desire is denied, you're angry, you're upset. And when nothing's happening, you're bored in between. So they call it sukha dukkha dham. That sort of sounds appropriate. But the only way out of that cycle, Master said, is through God perception. And we have to actually perceive God. And he gave that, I was mentioning in the purification, he gave that analogy of the moon that shines on the lake. And then when the lake is disturbed, right, that's the heart's feelings that are disturbed. And then finally when we calm the lake of our mind, then we can begin to go beyond pleasure, pain, and boredom, and we can go into that fourth state, which is peace. You know, a peaceful heart is what God then fills. You know, the humble, peaceful valley, he can flood then deeper than that peace, Master said, then with the oceanic joy of God. So why should we love God? Because God is life, as Swami said in one of his songs. God is life. God is joy. Life is God's. Life is joy. So the more that we actually try to perceive that within our own self, and that happens through our meditation and our spiritual life. But again, we cut it off when that ego comes in and can say, well, look how great I am. There's the story, some of us have heard Master tell that story of St. Francis and Brother Massio, and they were going to beg for bread. And Brother Massio was a very handsome, good-looking man, and St. Francis, he didn't look so good. And so they went to beg, and Brother Massio got a lot of bread, and he was very proud of himself. And St. Francis had a few crumbs, and then St. Francis, and to put Brother Massio in his place, said, "Oh, people gave you all that bread because you look so good," he said. But I wasn't talking. And then he lifted him up and dropped Brother Massio to the ground. He said, "I wasn't talking about the power of bread, but the power that flows behind bread." You know, as soon as we call that power, oh, I am God, like the other story of the saint that Yogananda came to when he was a young boy. I mean, Master was maybe 14. I think this was in Calcutta. And there was this great saint. He was a great saint. But some of his disciples had spoiled him, and it had gone to his head a little bit. And Master came to him as a young boy, 14. He said, and the saint said to him, "I am God." And Master said, "Oh, you don't say." And Master used to carry this little pocket mirror, and he held the mirror out. And he said, "So, look at the God." And the man got all angry with him. He said, "Look at the God." And the Master just got up and walked out. But Master said, to his credit, the man was a great saint, and to his credit, he ran out after Yogananda, after the young Mukunda, and said, "Thank you. You've awakened me from a great delusion." You know, it's not right for us to say, "I am God." But on the flip side, Master said, don't be afraid as well to say that the ocean has become my wave. You know, everything is a manifestation of God's consciousness. So all of us are a little wave. We're little bulge of that infinite oceanic bliss of God. That the only difference between us and the masters is, our wave is a little higher and it's calling more attention to itself. Whereas the wave of the master, just like when one time Swamiji was with Yogananda and he was feeling such love, he was feeling so grateful for his guru and the wisdom and the bliss and the love that flowed through him. And Yogananda stood up and then he just looked at Swamiji. And Swami just felt this overpouring energy, right, from the divine electrician, that electricity flowing through to him. And Yogananda said, just a bulge of the ocean. It's just, there's this infinite reservoir of energy that is within us. And if we can but learn how to cooperate with that flow of divine grace, it can then surcharge every aspect of our life. So that's another reason to seek God. That's another reason to love God. It's having that which no other gain is greater. That's the way they say it in India. That's one of my favorite things to meditate. Having that which no other gain is greater. You go after the relationship, you go after the money, you go after this, that, the other thing. It's all going to be taken away. It's not that we don't live in the world and we have those relationships and we have those things, but we can't have them without God first. So meditate on this, having that which no other gain is greater. When we seek God, when we make Him the pole star of our life, then everything is sort of pulled within that wake. And then we can begin to, then our magnetism is drawing to us, then the right relationship, right? Then the right partner, then the right things that we need for our highest good, God will give to us. And we don't have to worry, and what are we ruminating over? Over the future, what will happen, what if, and all the past, right? Just like Master said, forget the past. Literally, just forget it. And this is the time. When is the time to love God, to seek God? It's now. This is Swamiji wrote this one little book. He said, do it now. Don't wait. Oh, I'll do it when? I'll do it tomorrow. No, do it now. And it doesn't mean all of a sudden you've got to be meditating 8 hours a day. Just start meditating for 5 minutes a day. Start meditating for 15 minutes a day. Start wherever you are and just add a little incremental weight, if you will, right, to your spiritual workout. And seek God with intensity, not with tension, but with just earnestness. That's why He's placed us here. He wants to see. God won't come out, right? The great ones don't come out and start talking to us. Babaji's hidden. The great ones are hidden. They don't come out and say it. They want us to seek God of our own sacred free will. So that's another important point in why we should seek God, is that He is the only thing that's going to give us that. I used to, you ever, I don't know, in college, many times you don't have as much money. I remember in college you would open up the cupboard and, there was like ramen, Cheerios, and like maybe an apple. And I would go back to that same cupboard every day, thinking like I would find something new. You know what? It's not going to be there. You're going to get the same stale food. You're going to get the same stale cheese from the world. But go and seek God. Love God. Whatever way that you can. Sing whatever little song. And then the question becomes, but how do we seek Him? That's what this path is set before us. Not a sectarian path, not self-realization, fellowship, church, not Ananda church, not any church, but you're the minister. You are the preacher of your own temple. You are lighting the lamp of your own spine and brain, and you're sitting there in meditation, and you're calling out to God. Throw out the book. You've got the lessons. It's good. Take the lessons. I don't mean to not take the lessons. Do the lessons. But when you sit to meditate, you've got to go beyond that. You have to go into the inner lesson. You have to go into that inner prayer. And like Master said, if I didn't have a job in the depression, I would churn the ether until I had a job. And when you pray, he said, churn the ether with your prayer. Right? We must pray with that great earnestness. We must meditate with that sincerity. This is the other reason. No one else can do it for us. The Master is right there. Divine Mother is right there. They're waiting. Thee I find behind the fringe of my mind. Right? It's just those ripples. It's just that restlessness. Master himself told the story. And on the spiritual path, we can then take our worldly restlessness into spiritual life. So then it becomes, well, I've got this path, and now I'm going to go to this path and this teacher. Once you have found yours, follow it. The path is before you, now follow it. And Master told that story of when he was with Sri Yukteswar for 6 months. He said, I shamefacedly said these words that I want to go to the Himalayas. In constant communion, I'll find God. And Sri Yukteswar just very indirectly said, well, realization is better sought from men of realization than from inert mountains. And Yogananda said, and then he was silent. And then Yogananda said, I interpreted his silence as acquiescence, right? It's his silent approval. And then I went. And Master left this was months. And then he met Ram Gopal. It's this whole story I won't tell there. But Master was telling us that story, that we can also take our restlessness and the instability of our mind into our spiritual life as well. That what will see you through those storms is that loyalty and that steadfastness to your guru, to the teaching, to the path of self-realization. And again, I don't mean that as a sectarian thought, but as your own pathway to liberation. And, we can do this. It's right there before us. I had a friend who was preparing for Kriya initiation, and he said, it was so difficult. I'm so busy at my work, I have my patients, and my children, my wife, and this, that, and the other thing. And then he said, finally I just put it in my schedule. And he didn't put meditate. He said, I put it in there, and he's like, look. And I thought, it was so sweet. It said, be with God. That's what was in his calendar, right? We go out for tea, we're going down to Percolate, you're getting boba in your tea. We can do that, but we can't spend time with God? Yes, we can. It's a matter of our will. It's a matter of, remember how Master defined it, will is the desire plus the energy. Right? You can have all the greatest intentions in the world, but like that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But when you put your will behind it, and then you start to rotate it around it, then it becomes, Master used to say, it becomes dynamic will, right? It builds a dynamo within yourself that this is what I want. And then everything feeds into that. Wow, I'm feeding myself good foods because I want to keep the body fit for self-realization. I'm thinking wholesome thoughts because this is a temple of God. And I'm communing with him because he is coming on the altar of my soul. So when everything feeds into that, it has a building magnetic power. I wanted to close with a story as well of Swamiji. I brought out this book, The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And this is an amazing, incredible book. Some of us may not know that Swami Kriyananda wrote this book towards the end of his life in 2006, when he was around 80 or so. And this is an incredible commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, right, the Bible of India. And he wrote and edited that book in 6 weeks. And he said, I didn't do it, my guru did it. And then when some of his fellow disciples saw the title, they said, "You can't use that title. You're calling it your guru's because it's the Bhagavad Gita explained by Paramhansa Yogananda as remembered by his disciple Swami Kriyananda." Can't get any clearer than that. But he responded, "Well, whose name do you want me to put on there? I can't see," and we're like Swamiji used to say elsewhere, that I can't see where Kriyananda ends and where Yogananda begins. That's what we're going with the ego. That not that we don't deny the ego, we don't suppress the ego. See, we through our attunement, through our growing attunement, it's our ego then expands into its greater self, which is the soul nature. And so Swamiji, that's how he responded. That I didn't write that book. My guru wrote it through me. Right? I was but a channel. I was but the empty vessel that then became filled with that presence of God's love and joy and bliss. And it was just like the Gita is a name for. It was a song of spirit that flowed through me. And so it will be for us. The more that we love God, the more that we prepare the temple of our heart, Divine Mother's song and the Master's song will flow through our heart and will become that whisper into eternity that will commingle and break into that great light of the mystic electrician. God bless you.